Hello, good evening and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers Transfer Agenda Show. I'm your host, Keith Plunker, and tonight I'm joined, as usual these days, by Kev O'Sullivan. Kev, how are you?
I'm really good, mate. How are you keeping?
Grand since
Laura,
we were last on last
you're
night.
delighted with your success from yesterday?
I am. We had a show last night where we had the draft teams of Liverpool League Cup winning. So any player that played in the League Cup final for Liverpool, and Conroy was on with us as well, and he got screwed because I deviously put El Hadj Diouf in my team and then traded him to Conroy when he couldn't give him back. It went to a Twitter vote. Conroy lost. So it is what it is. There's loads of schadenfreude and underhand stuff that goes on here, but we make no apologies for it. We'll make no
I got stuck
apologies
with
for
Igor
it.
Biscan, so
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
There you go. I'm also joined tonight. We're going to look at some other clubs' dealings and business, and two of the more interesting and maybe busy, but maybe not as busy as we may have expected clubs that are involved. We've got Matt Hayes from the Tottenham blog. Matt, how are you?
All good, Keith. Pleasure to be on. I'm sure there's some people who won't feel the same about me being here, but look, always a good time on the show.
No, not at all. Matt's a friend of the show. He's been on plenty of times before, and he's always welcome on these shores. And we'll say no more about it. And we're also joined by Kendall Rowan. Kendall, how are you? Your second time on with us in so many weeks.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Thank you for having me again. But yeah, I'm good. Just very stressed with the transfer window at the moment, to be honest. I thought it might have been a bit more enjoyable than this, a bit splashing the cash. Yeah. It's normally nice if you have money, but yeah, it's bringing us more problems than I expected, to be honest.
That's it. Yeah, these are the stresses, you know what I mean? You get all this money and it's like, right, we're going to buy this. Now you've got Chris Wood. It's going to take a bit more than that, I think. But look, we'll see what you can do. We're going to go through what we're going to do. We're going to have a look at, as I said, the some of the teams that are busy, some of the teams that are maybe not as busy as they said they were going to be, and some deals that are going through, and others that are probably taking their time. So what we're going to do, we're going to start in North London. Not with you, Matt. We'll give you a minute. Well, we could start with you, but we're not going to start with Tottenham. We're going to start with Arsenal, because the thing with Arsenal and Spurs, actually, we can group them both together, is that they're sort of two teams where the managers came out openly and said, we want to do business. We have to do business. We need this, that, and the other. And Arsenal, I think, we're looking for midfield players, looking for midfield reinforcements, and we're looking for attacking reinforcements. Now, they haven't done anything, I don't think, up till now. Spurs, very similar. There's a few murmurs of what Spurs will do, but we'll come to those in a minute. But Matt, how do you think it's going for Arsenal? What do you think is happening to our bitterest rivals?
It's a really strange case, and I'm kind of finding it difficult to really gauge exactly where they are and exactly where they're going, because they're higher up on the table at this point than I expected them to be. But there's no doubt they do need to strengthen that squad. Everything going on with Aubameyang, they need someone in there. They need a midfielder. They need something really to shore up the middle of the park, if not two players in there. And it's been weird that I've kind of involuntarily been kept up a lot with their transfer window, because there's so many players that were actually both linked to it. Like, even go back to the summer with Tomiyasu and Emerson Royale, and now you got Arthur Melo, Bruno Guimaraes, even Dusan Vlahovic, who realistically neither of us were ever going to get a sniff for. It's really interesting though how that is panning out. But to be perfectly honest, I think it's been a dreadful month for Arsenal, and I know it's a sensible way to go into things, that they're not going to buy players unless it straight out improves their squad. And I think Tottenham have gone in with a similar mindset. But Arsenal at the moment, with 5 days left, don't really seem as though anything is going to be done. I know there's more murmurs with Arthur Melo today, but I'm very, very satisfied with how their window has gone, and I don't see them posing much of a threat for the rest of the season, and that will come back and bite me.
Yeah, well, look, we'll see. We'll clip that up and see what happens. But Kendall, Arsenal, what do you make of what they're doing down there in North London? Arthur Melo does seem to be the one that's got the most traction, but they're running out of time to get that one done, and it's a fairly big deal to get across the line. Can you see Arsenal doing that? And do you think if they don't do anything, have they got enough to sustain a top 4 challenge?
It's a strange one, because like Matt says, they seem to be in the market for a few, and then nothing is really happening going forward. So obviously Vlahovic was the big one, and that Arsenal fans basically had him mocked up in this strip and had them as his background and things, but that hasn't happened. Obviously Juventus seem to be getting that deal over the line. So Yeah, it's a strange one. You would think that they would now be desperate because obviously I'm assuming Aubameyang, if he doesn't leave this window, because as I say, there's not much time left. I'm assuming if he doesn't leave this window, he'll be absolutely categorically gone in the summer. He hasn't gone on the trip to Dubai with him. He's been left out of that as well. So I think his time is only coming to an end. He's on borrowed time with them at the moment. So you would think that they will be desperate to get deals done, but I don't really know what their strategy is going forward because they clearly are missing out on their targets. Another one, as we've just said, that we're in for now, in Bruno Gamara. So yeah, it's a strange one. I just don't think they're going to get anything done now. It's just way too late to get any sort of armory in of a level that would influence them like Aubameyang has in the past. So yeah, I don't think they're going to get anything done in the next 6 days now. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. Kev, Arsenal, there is a whiff of desperation of what they're trying to do there now. You know, as Chris says on the screen, that Arsenal's transfer strategy is to publicly go for a name to show ambition and then settle for a lower target. I don't even know if they'll get the lower target, but I'm pretty sure they'll probably get a midfield player in at least before the window. But, you know, they're putting all the eggs in the Arthur basket and it may not be that quality of player that they get. Can you see them doing that, or is it just all more chest puffed out and shouting about ambition and doing this? Are they in trouble, basically, not only midfield, but with the Aubameyang situation, as Kendall has touched on, the likes of Nketiah and the other Lacazette, that they're not exactly settled up front either?
No. The Aubameyang problem is a 350 grand a week problem that is they're going to struggle to move him. And yeah, you'll find a few clubs who will pay his wages, but will they be the ones he wants to play for? Is he going to do an Ozil? That's their biggest problem. Arsenal have gone and spent 150 million in the summer. And I think all in all, their summer window was pretty okay. They have a very young side. No Europe should help them this season. It really should. You know, getting to a League Cup semi-final and doing it on the back or with a bunch of kids really shows the promise that they have there. But the problem I think they're going to have is if they want to see themselves as challenging to get into the top four, they need someone like Isaac or someone of that caliber to come in and lead the line up front. Now, will someone like that sign for a club on the strength of we might get into the Champions League in a January window? No, they're not. Arthur apparently Arsenal won a 6-month deal, and I think Juventus wants 18 months with all of his wages being paid by Arsenal. And that's not somewhere Arsenal are willing to go or willing to commit to, especially with the other wage problems that they have at the club. So with 5 days to go, I don't think they get anything done. I think they've ran the clock so tight on their one target that they wanted, that they were aspiring to, that they've taken their eye off. Because Arthur was mentioned a few weeks ago. You know, they've taken their eye off the ball on that one. And that should have been done and wrapped up. And a lot of clubs are running against the clock now, especially with players we'll talk about later on who are in South America who have to have medicals. You're battling against the clock. And when you're battling against the clock as a club who needs to buy, you're paying a financial penalty for every day that you do that because you don't have any pull in this. You know, it's because I always look at January as there's 4 categories for me of a January transfer window. You've got the desperate club who are in trouble. You've got the injury crisis. You've got the manager change. Or you've got the bad transfer policies. And luckily, touch wood, this time last year, we were in one of those categories and we were climbing the walls with 5 days to go. Who's going to be our centre-back pairing? But this year, touch wood, we're not in that boat. And it's nice to be going into the last 5 days knowing that, A, we're not going to do anything, and B, we don't have to do anything. We don't need anything. We'd like something. We don't need to.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think all fans would like it. Boom.
Yeah, but we don't need it. And there's a big difference. And we've seen with Klopp before that he's quite prepared to wait for the target that he wants. So we'll see. But
Yeah.
I think that we're, touch wood, we're in an okay position at the moment.
What's Aubameyang got left on his deal? Does anyone know?
18 months.
18 months, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
going to be a hard one. I mean, they'll end up, we've seen rumours of a 6 million transfer and all just to get him off the books. It's crazy. You know, you give that money and it's opening up a can of worms, and it's hard. We've seen Manchester United as well with Alexis Sanchez and others doing it, and Arsenal themselves with Ozil. It's a dangerous game, something that Liverpool have to be cognizant of as well with Mo Salah, even though fans would just say, give him the money. Yeah, you open yourself up then. We've even seen Bayern Munich when they gave Leroy Sané a big deal when he went there. And then other players, Goretzka was coming in looking for big money, and Nicolas Sula now is leaving because they won't give him. Oliver Kahn has come out saying, "What we pay what we think they're worth and no more." And teams do have to be wary of this space when it happens. But the players that Arsenal have been looking at, you know, Dusan Vlahovic. I know Matt, you said Spurs are looking at him as well. It was never a realistic target. You know, Liverpool were linked with him as well in the summer. And the talk then was Juventus. He's always destined for Juventus. And when you are coming in for these players, it's a big pull. It's a hard one to get in front of. And when Arsenal and Spurs are in the uncertain places that they are at the moment, you know, it's not the easiest sort of deal to pull off. And similar with Isaac, he's come out apparently and says there's no way he's going to be moving in this window. And the other forward they're linked with is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, Everton at the effort of taking, I'm sure. But I don't know if the fans will be too happy if their golden boy gets sold. You know,
Mate, they're already crying about a manager they haven't even got yet.
Yeah. They've enough going on in their lives, haven't they, to be worrying about losing.
Did you see that they did like a protest to the owner, and one of the flags just said "boo"?
Yeah. They're a great bunch of lads.
I was honestly like, that's unbelievable. I love it.
Yeah, they're great crack. They're worth every penny, Everton. You know, the fans just go. They're so, I wouldn't say miserable, because you know they're a long time without a bit of silverware there. But Jesus, they act like they should be such a big club, and no, it wouldn't suit them. It wouldn't suit them playing at the big boys' table. But look, we'll see. Everything could be on the brink of doing something. We never know. Yeah, right. It's not happening. Matt, back to you. Still in North London. Over to your lads. Now, it's been an interesting month for Spurs. Like I say, Conte has been coming out and openly saying he needs players, not just like one player. I think he's saying I need multiple players in the squad. Adama Traore is being linked an awful lot. Luis Diaz now is being linked. Well, they bid for Luis Diaz, so it's more than a link. Where are the areas of strength that you'd like to see them? Is it, you know, is it a winger necessarily that they want, or is there more that you think they need to do?
The worst part about this is winger wasn't on our list. We've got a long list of things that we need to improve, and winger was not on there. You know, we need a right wing back, we need a left-sided centre back, we need a centre midfielder, we need a backup striker, and then all of a sudden we have £37 million to bid for Luis Diaz. And I know he has the attributes and the ability to play as a Conte striker, which is, you know, not a typical out-and-out striker like the role that Matteo Politano or Alexis Sanchez kind of had at Inter Milan last season. But it's concerning that is the deal that, as we're hearing at the moment, is our priority and is the one that we want to get done. And I've seen a lot of people there saying, you know, have we signed Traore? Was that done? To be honest, that looks like it's not going to happen at the moment, which is a very, very strange turn from what we've been hearing for the last 2-3 weeks. George Mendes has offered him to Barcelona at the moment. And look, Luis Diaz is an incredible signing. He's a really, really good signing. It's a clever bit of business to get it done in January if we can get it done. But it's concerning how we're neglecting the other areas of the pitch that need to be sorted. And as Kev mentioned there, it's a race against the clock. Financially, we're on the back foot now. We need to offer £5-10 million more for any player that we want to get in. And this is coming now after 26 days of doing nothing. And we're holding out hope because Fabio Paratici, the way he works is he'll negotiate for 4, 5, 6 different players for a certain position. A lot of the times it can be done completely behind the scenes. You know, Brian Gill over the summer, the first we heard of that was Fabrizio Romano saying, here we go, it's a done deal. So I'm hoping there's something like that there, but I'm not really holding much hope for it. The one deal that we've definitely got done, once Ndombele makes that move to PSG, we're going to be bringing in Sofiane Amrabat from Fiorentina, who he's not a pretty signing. He's not one that any Spurs fan would have identified as a player that we needed, but he's a clever signing because he's cheap. I think it's a loan with an option to buy for £12 million in the summer, but he's a Conte player. And that for me
he's doing well at the AFCON. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's having a poor enough season with Fiorentina, but he's doing well there. And with him, what I wanted for a midfield was a number 10 or a playmaker or like someone to replace Christian Eriksen, which we have never done. And that's kind of what I've been banging on about for the last couple of months. And someone made the point in my comment section recently that Conte never really uses a number 10. He doesn't have a playmaker, whether it was in that 3-5-2 at Inter Milan, which, at times was kind of the exception to the rule. Could be Christian Eriksen there. But even at Chelsea, he had like a Fabregas. At Inter Milan, a Brozovic, a Sensi, a Barella, who can be defensive and offensive, who doesn't have one particular skill. He can do a little bit of everything. And I think that's what Amrabat offers, a bit more ball progression in the middle instead of Højbjerg as well, which is good. But I think we're not addressing what needs to be addressed at the moment.
So I was going to ask you there, you sort of touched on the creative midfield player. If you were the fantasy football here, you've one signing to make, you've got the money to bring in, realistically, who you want to bring in, what's the one position you're strengthening and who are you targeting?
It's a difficult one because we need so much. I thought our priority would be a left-sided centre-back, but having brought in Ben Davies back into the fold, he seems to be not ideal, not a long-term option, but he's steadying the ship back there for the moment. If I could have my pick of left-sided centre-backs, I want Alessandro Bastoni from Inter Milan. And look, it may not be the most realistic deal, but I would have said the same thing about Christian Romero 6 months ago. I didn't think that would happen. Bastoni, for me, he proved it last year. He's that perfect player for that Conte system. A centre-back who can bomb forward, but also has that recovery pace and is a very good defensive player. I'd love to see him come in. But from what's realistic and what we're actually looking at right now, Adama would be my best choice. He doesn't have end product, which is a massive, massive concern. But Conte, if there's one thing he's good at, it's getting the best out of wingers or getting the best out of wing backs. And, we want him to be our Victor Moses, which sounds like a crazy sentence, but could be the thing that gets us into top four, because Emerson Royal just hasn't done it since he came in. I think the criticism he's been getting has been a bit exaggerated and perhaps hasn't been deserved in its entirety, but he hasn't been good enough. And we need someone to be better out there because we rely so much on our wing backs for creativity. But Reguilon down the left or Sessegnon, whoever it is, we need something to match that out the right-hand side. And again, if Adama is Conte's number one option, as much as I don't think it'll work out, I trust him and I want that to happen.
Yeah, Adama is a player that we've been linked with many a time as well, and a lot of our fans are like getting Adama, but I just think his end product isn't there, his numbers aren't there, and his price, we were linked with him last year, and Wolves were talking, or rumoured to be talking 100 million, and it's like, not happening. And as it's gone on, his price is plummeting. And I know when players are coming to the end of contracts and all, prices drop, but it seems like Wolves are desperate to get rid of him now, and our Mendes is desperate to move him on, and that's a red flag. You know what I mean? I think he'd be good as an impact player, but I think if Spurs are signing him, he's a first team player, and I think you'd run into trouble with him. Matt Hayhoe in the chat there, our Spurs squad issues run deeper than a fantasy signing, lad. So I think he's backing up what you're saying there, Matt, that there's a lot of work to be done. But look, there's still a few days for you to get something over the line. Kendall, Spurs, can you see them doing that in this window? Do you agree with Matt that there's a lot of work to be done on that squad? Is it a Conte squad in your opinion? Is it the type of, has he got the players that he can work with from what we've seen in the past?
I don't think it's a Conte squad at all. I think Matt would agree. It can't be. He hasn't really had much of a chance to do anything about it, in all fairness. So right now it won't be a Conte squad. I don't think it'll be a Conte squad even over the next two windows, in my opinion. There's too much to be done, and we all know Daniel Levy is notoriously difficult to do deals with. So I don't think it'll be a Conte squad for a while, depending on how long he stays. I do think there'll be at least a player in by the end of the window, because they have been going about their business pretty quietly. Obviously the Traore deal was a little bit in the public eye, and that hasn't happened, which is probably, I think it's probably a good thing. I agree with you, Keith, on that. I just think that I don't think he's Premier League quality at this moment, until that final third quality, and he's getting older now. So Whether or not he will be again, I don't know. You could do a Lukaku and go to like Serie A and be the best winger you've ever seen in your life, but that's a risky take. So yeah, it's probably a good deal at Traore. Good thing that Traore hasn't been done. I think that probably going forward, Conte will want to fix up a little bit defensively. I agree. I would have thought that a centre back would have been the immediate overriding issue there, and it doesn't look like they're in for one. So I don't know. Spurs is a funny club because there's such like an imbalance between what Conte wants, what Daniel Levy's willing to do, what Paratici wants to do. Like, you actually don't know what their like approach is or what their strategy is going forward. It's like you don't know who's going to come out on top in that situation. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they get done in the window. But I think summer will be the one where we see a bit more business from Conte and co.
Yeah,
makes it feel any better. We don't know the answer to any of those questions either.
But you know what, Matt? That's a good point, because I think there is a huge unknown element there. The fact that you have Paratici in there now, it's not just Conte negotiating with Daniel Levy. I want this, I want that. You know, the director of football or the sporting director is there to do a job. He's given a budget, and it's like, right, what do we need? And Conte, you know, he's not a long-term manager in jobs he's been. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of signings he does make, you know, because Adama Traore is Premier League ready, Premier League proven. He's not a young player. With Brian Gill, obviously, was the opposite end of that spectrum. He was a young player that needs to develop and needs to grow. So it'll be interesting to see what Conte wants, because he always wanted, in a similar way to Jose Mourinho, he always wants older players, you know, that are ready and that he can rely on straight away, because he's not going to be there long term. But will be very much a watch this space. Kev, Spurs, what do you see them doing? Do you think they'll do enough, or is it just a case, as Kendall said there, of, you know, keep it till the summer and then see what you have to do then? Or are they risking missing out on a top 4 opportunity?
I'd love to have been a fly on the wall to hear what Antonio Conte was promised and be in the room on the 1st of February with the phone call going, "You told me this, and I've got that. What the fuck are you playing at?" Conte, the scary thing for me is Conte is very capable of protecting brand Conte. Yeah. And saying, look, you promised me this, you haven't fulfilled your end of the bargain, I'm out. I doubt it. I don't think he will. But when I first saw the Luis Diaz story, I thought that's Spurs trying to get the hurry up on Wolves. Make a decision or we'll look elsewhere. Now, I think what Spurs have reportedly offered for Luis Diaz is his value. I don't believe he's worth any more than 35 to 40 million euro.
Yeah. We said that recently as well.
Yeah, we did. We both said that multiple times. The buyout clause is something that clubs put into contracts because, one, they have to, but two, it protects them. That if they have to rush and buy something, fine. Its buyout is something silly like 68, 70 million euro.
It's 80 million euro, I think.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous buyout, but it's one that you see in the Iberian Peninsula a lot with Spain and Portugal. With all their players, they always have an inflated buyout clause. Mm-hmm. But I think 35, 40 million will still be his value in the summer. That's why I can see Porto holding firm now, because they're still in the Champions League. Another round into the Champions League if they qualify and get into the last 8, which they're capable of.
Who have they got? Ajax, is it?
No, that's Benfica. Someone in the chat will sling it in there pretty quick.
Yeah.
But if they get into the last 8 of the Champions League, that is a fair chunk of change, you know, for a club, especially a club like Porto, where their wage bill isn't huge. You know, so I honestly felt that the bid wouldn't be enough to move him in January, and I thought, this is just, you know, Wolves, get a move on, make a decision, get a fee sorted, and let's get this Adama Traore deal done. Now, Wolves turned around and done the Heung-min Son, Wang Hee-Chang deal today, and confirmed they're paying his 16 million euro buyout clause, which
great
is fantastic.
Bit of business, that.
Great bit of business, that. I think Bruno Guimaraes would have been an ideal Spurs player, and for the fee that Newcastle are reportedly being asked, Spurs should have been all over that. It's not extortionate. It is what he is worth. He's a very good player, and he would have fitted into what Conte would want to do in that midfield, especially if he wants to revert to a midfield three. Because he's very capable of playing both positions, be it a holding mid or an attacking mid or an 8. He can do all of that. Again, I think Spurs are against the clock and they're in danger of missing the boat. And I think if they miss the boat and this window, having Conte already come out and said what he needs, doesn't do much for the squad for the second half of the season. He's basically telling half the squad, look, I don't care whether you're here now or not. You won't be here. I don't want you here. You're going to be gone soon. And that in the running could hurt their top 4 run. I think they're good enough to get into the top 4. I think I was on a show with Matt there not long back, and I said that Spurs should get in around the top 4 argument. They're not far off Chelsea. Chelsea are in a bit of a free fall. So Spurs should be looking to improve the squad to push Chelsea and get into the Champions League. It's Arsenal are messing about with it, but Arsenal have the advantage of no Europe. But it's got to be an interesting run in. But I think Spurs are very much in danger of missing the boat, and this is the danger when you leave things till late. You're waiting for other pieces to fall into place, and if they don't, you end up with, peeing against the wind kind of thing.
Yeah.
I really think Spurs are going to surprise everyone. I hope they don't surprise me, because I would almost personally guarantee we're going to make at least 2 signings. Everything that we're doing, everything that we've always done under Daniel Levy has relied on outgoings.
Yeah.
And we made a big step today towards getting Ndombele to PSG. The problem there was we wanted them to pay all the wages. They obviously didn't want to pay. He's on $200,000 a week, which is insanity. We crossed that bridge today. They're going to pay that, and it's just negotiating a buyout option for him. At the end of the 6-month loan, I expect Dele Alli to leave. I think Brian Gill will go on loan if we do get someone else in, and there's the potential for Jaffa Tanganga or Joe Rodon to leave as well. And I have faith in Paratici, because I fully believe Levy has taken a step back. Just the way we're going about the business, the way things are actually happening, I think it is Paratici who is in charge of everything now, and I have faith that he will have things lined up for when those departures happen. And just on Diaz, I don't expect us to sign him. I don't think that's one that'll happen. It was a lowball first offer, and kind of like what Chris said about Arsenal a while ago, it seems like a PR thing. It's one that we're pretending to show ambition, and it's not going to happen. Spurs typically do that. And the examples over the last 5, 6, 7 years, you have Milan Skriniar, with Steve Hitchens went out to Milan to try and get things done. You have Bruno Fernandes, Paulo Dybala, and you can rattle off 100 other names. And yes, the precedent is there for us to mess this up, but the point that I would make, that I saw made on Twitter, it's not often I find intelligent stuff on Twitter, but I did. Someone said that with Christian Romero being the kind of big name we were linked to over the summer, for the management that we have at the moment with Fabio Paratici and his team around him, Romero is the big player that we've been linked to. It's the only one that they've tried to bring into Spurs, and they were successful with it. So I think it's unfair to judge the current team based on what the previous regime did. I know Levy is still there, but I don't think he's in charge of that side of things. So I think we need to cut them a little bit of slack and put a bit of faith in them that it'll happen. But for me, I'm more optimistic than I would have been 12 months ago, but I still don't think it'll happen, because Diaz will have the pick of the bunch in the summer when that price begins to drop. And for Spurs, if we don't get it now, we won't get it in the summer, because there's a lot of more enticing teams out there than Tottenham at the moment.
Indeed, there is, and I think myself, Kev, and Kendall will all be watching with interest, because I think our teams will all be looking, or should be looking, at Luis Diaz as well. And I'll quickly, but we'll leave Kendall for a few minutes with Newcastle. We'll just quickly, because they're going to be the ones with the most links and the most things to talk about. We'll quickly go through a few deals that have sort of gone through and that are being rumoured to go through. Anthony Martial's gone to Sevilla on loan for the rest of the season. He needed to get out of Manchester United. It didn't work out for him. Unfortunately for him and Martin Tyler, it just never happened for him at Manchester United. But he hasn't done himself many favours, because he hasn't really, opportunities were there and he never grasped them. The move is good from Kendall. I'll come to you on this one. Martial, good move for him, or will he be back at United in 6 months like Jesse Lingard and just fill in a place on the bench next season? or do you think it's a chance to kickstart his career?
The thing is he needs to take the chance. There is no excuse for him not to take this chance now. It's absolutely up to him. I think that he needs to do like a lot of other players have done. As we say again, I'll bring up Lukaku again. He was in an extremely toxic relationship with Man United at the time. He needed to get out. He did, and he's ended up with a 100 million move at the end of it. That can be Martial if he puts the work in. Whether or not he will is a different story. I don't know. I don't know the player. I don't know what his work rate is like. Man United fans seem to be very having a serious affinity to him for some reason. I don't understand that. I don't know why they do, because for about 2 or 3 years now, he hasn't done anything for them. But that affinity and that soul tie with Man United fans seems to still be there. I would guess that they probably would want him back, like as a renewed player. But I don't think that I think that's probably his Man United career over now. It's not very often a player goes out on loan and comes back renewed and like a completely different player when they've gone elsewhere. So, yeah, I hope it works out for him. He's still relatively young. He can still make an absolutely unbelievable career out of himself. The ability's there. We've seen it. But now that's up to him, and that is whether he wants to go and do that. Similar to the likes of Jesse Lingard, similar to Dele Alli. If they get moves this window, it is now completely up to them, because they don't have an excuse to hide behind. They don't have, I'm sitting on the bench, I'm not getting my chance, I'm in a bad relationship with the club. They don't have that excuse now if they get that move. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. In Sevilla are doing pretty well in the league at the moment. I think they're still second. So hopefully he makes an impact and has a better career going forward.
Yeah, Manchester United and their fans' affinity to players is nothing new. They made a song about him. They love Tony Marshall there at Manchester United, but they've done that about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer being at the wheel. They done one about Virgil van Dijk being just like Phil Jones. They make a song about you. It's a kiss of death. So, long may it last. Another deal that went through is one that went very much under the radar. Kev, I'm going to ask you, Julian Alvarez, $18 million, I think it is, to Manchester City. Mm-hmm. Loan back to River Plate, so he's the hot young Argentinian forward player. He's been in the Argentina squad in around it there recently in the Copa America and that. He's gone to Man City. He's going back on loan to River Plate. One for the future. I've read that it's not going to impact their ambitions to sign a forward. That'll be a first-team player. But what do you think of that as a deal?
It's a very good deal. It's a very smart deal, because they've sold Ferran Torres for profit and used the profit to basically fund this deal for this kid. And he's quick. He's rapid. The clips I've seen of him, he's a typical Argentina striker. His movement is really good. And under Guardiola, this kid could be anything. He really, really could. They could, in a few years' time, you could be turning around talking about, did you see how much they paid for this kid? What a bargain. It's a free hit, because every which way you look at it, they're not going to lose on it. If it doesn't work out in 2 years' time, they'll sell him and flip him and make a profit on him anyway. If it does work out, it's a bargain, and he saved them a fortune. It's win-win for them. And look, when they get it, there's a couple of things that Man City have actually got right in the last few days. And I just wanted to mention that actually. You shouldn't ever see clubs getting slated or hammered for giving kids cheap tickets who may never get a chance to go and watch a game. Now, my missus was over in Bristol last week, and she was thinking about going and watch Bristol City while she was over there for the weekend. And she just phoned up. How much are the match tickets? It's £41 on the day to go and watch the side for one ticket to go and watch the side in the bottom half of the championship. £41. Now, if you can get to take your kid to go and watch Man City for a tenner, Man City shouldn't get slated for that. I'll slate Man City all day long for lots of things. No problem at all. Just go in, leave me alone for an hour, and I'll rabbit on about them. No problem. But not for that. That's hats off, fair play. And if you can do it, and if it means you get more kids in to see the games, good, fair play.
It's a great point. I mean, it's something we can have a dig and say, like, they've got the seats to give these tickets for cheap, like I'm sure Spurs are similar to ourselves, Matt, and definitely Newcastle. You sell out every week, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to get the tickets to the games. Man City, not that they have that luxury, and it's not a dig at them, but I'm surprised they haven't done this sooner. I'm surprised they haven't been given cheap tickets to get bodies into that stadium, because I don't care the look when they're playing big games, big Champions League games, and there's acres of empty seats in the stadium. It's just a terrible look. So I'm surprised they haven't done it soon, but I agree 100% with you, Kev. Never slate a team for doing that, because, you know, £41 for Bristol City is scandalous, you know, and we've all gone to support our clubs. And right, Kendall, you're local up there, so you can get to Newcastle all the time. Matt, I know you probably get over a couple of times as well. They at the Spurs, and like ourselves, we get over, and you'll pay it on the one or two occasions you can get there. But you know, to give that cheap ticket, it's such a good incentive to do, and they do have to be applauded for it. We won't give them much more applause, but that'll be about it. Yeah, indeed. Matt, I'll come to you, Matt. Right, a quick one before we move on to Kendall. Barcelona project rebuild is starting. They're in talks for Cesar Azpilicueta. Now, I won't give my age away, but Cesar Azpilicueta is nearly as old as me, and I wouldn't be any use for a rebuild anywhere. What do you make of this?
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's not surprising, because Barcelona are undoubtedly the worst run club in the world. I can understand to some extent that if they are going to be bringing in young players, if they are going to have a proper go to rebuild, if they're going to try and breed players like Pedri, Gavi into that team, who obviously have incredible talent, a leader like Azpilicueta back there would do well. I'm sure Azpilicueta would be happy to go back to Spain for the end of his career, and he's still a good player, but he's not the level he was at. And I think Chelsea fans are quickly realising that in the last couple of months as well. He's versatile, he does offer that as well, but I just don't see the sense in it. I really don't. I'm always surprised by how Barcelona managed to mess everything up, and there's players out there, like if they have the money back, like Joe Laporta has claimed they've had, someone like a Nicolas Sula, bring him in as a centre back if you have to. You know, someone who has played at the top level, of course, won a lot with Bayern Munich, has the ability, has played at national level. Someone like that who can come in and actually be some bit of a long-term player. Or again, if the money's really there, like the big players we've seen, the Haalands and all that, I don't think they'll be able to make those signings, but there's a lot of directions Barcelona could have gone with this one, and I'm very surprised that this is the main one.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I know they're looking at Christensen as well, but the thing is, they can't get. They're another club that struggle to get rid of their players as well. Titi had to take a pay cut so they could get Ferran Torres in the door, and you know, shifting these players will be really difficult. You know, so it's again, I agree with you. It's a very poorly run club. You know, Lionel Messi was getting £1 million a week, right, or €1 million a week. He earned every penny of that, and he was an economy. He was an economy in himself. So, you know, what they were paying Leo Messi, they were getting back tenfold. Maybe not tenfold, but they were getting it back. They then had Antoine Griezmann on 800,000 apparently a week. They didn't get that back. That wasn't an economy. That was a false economy. But they've other players that are getting like five. Frankie de Jong's on about 400,000. You know, it's going to be really hard to shift. How you get into this state? It's madness and it's negligent. But yeah, I heard the rumours they have got this money for this big rebuild, and they are in the Haaland sweepstakes, and they're in the every other player now sweepstakes. I didn't think it'd be Azpilicueta and Christensen that they're being linked with, and Adama Traore, but you know, maybe it's going to be a slow burner, and they'll just do January, and come the summer it'll be when they'll do their business. But yeah, I was surprised to see them linked there. Kev, I'm going to come to you quickly, right? Liverpool, we're a Liverpool channel, right? So let's have a little talk about Liverpool. Are Liverpool going to do any business in January, Kev? No, right. Enough about Liverpool. We'll move on. Now, very quickly, right? I seen those linked up Paulo Dybala today.
I think there'll be one out. I think Nat Phillips is the only one you can sell without having to replace him.
Yeah, we said that for a long time, that he's one player that we could move on.
I got a sneaky feeling if Dan Burn ends up going north, Nat Phillips could go south.
Yeah.
And I could see that working out really well for both clubs. Because Nat Phillips reminds me a little bit of Andy Webster.
Yeah. Adam Webster.
No, Adam Webster, yeah. 25 million they paid for Bristol City for Webster. And they moulded him into the centre-back that he is now. Nat is a bit older than what Webster was at the time. But he proved last season that you give him a job to do and he can do it. And he got better as the season went on. He's not a clunky, passer of the ball. He can pass the ball. He can definitely head the ball. He can defend. And he loves defending. Ask Ibra. Ibra knows. But, I want nice things for Nat Phillips because I honestly think that he did the club a solid by staying for 6 months.
100%.
He got an extension in his contract and a nice pay rise, but he could have pushed for a move at any time last summer and he didn't. He stayed because we needed someone in case any of the players who were injured coming back broke down, and he stayed. So I just hope for nice things for him. I hope he gets a good move. I hope he gets a move that he wants, and I think the club will facilitate that move by not asking for a ridiculous fee. I think he'll go for 7, maybe 8, 9 million tops, and I think the club will facilitate that.
Yeah,
he owes the club nothing. We've had a few loan fees off of him. He came through the system. We never paid for him. If we get eight, I think he's worth more, but I think if we get 8, 9 million, he'll get the move to a club that he wants to play with, and he'll play. I think there's a few clubs out there who do well to sign someone like him because he's a centre back who loves defending, and you don't see that often. You often see centre backs who think they're footballers and who try to be footballers when they shouldn't be playing football. He's not that, and he will put his body on the line, and I just like to see him get a move that he wants. There's been interest apparently in Nico again, but I can't see him being allowed to go in this window. In the summer, definitely. In the summer, I think he'll get a move. I don't see us bringing anyone in. We're not when the AFCON is over, and by the time we face Cardiff, bar maybe one, I think we've got a fully fit squad and a fully available squad. And going into the second half of the season, unless some exceptional value deal came up on your doorstep, like the link with Paulo Dybala today, and even then, I'd look at it and think, where'd you fit? Where'd you fit now? I can see where you might fit if someone else leaves, but you don't fit today. You might fit in July 1st, but you don't fit now. So I'm happy. I'm happy enough with the squad. I'd love a shiny new thing, but I'm not desperate for one. Yeah.
I'd be surprised if Dybala came to Liverpool even in the summer because I don't know if his attributes and his age are, what we would need. But Luis Diaz is one that I do think will come to Liverpool in the summer. I think he'll be our top attacking target, and I think we may get him in the door. I think Tchouameni at Monaco will be a target that we will probably get in the door as well, and I think Liverpool will look to do one other, but I don't think it'll be big, and there certainly won't be any ins in January. But you touched on the one out, and Nat Phillips. I think every Liverpool fan wishes Nat Phillips the best. Nat Phillips came in when we were absolutely on our hunkers last year, and he picked us up, put us on his back, and headed us 20 yards out. And I just think he is I said it all along in our team. I think he's good enough for a lot of Premier League teams. Some lads thought he was championship level. You look at some of the teams in the Premier League. He may not be good enough long term for Liverpool the way we want to play football, but he certainly is good enough for a lot of Premier League teams. Kendall, he was linked with you guys as well. And I think you tweeted something about it as well, tongue in cheek, maybe the other day. Is he a player you'd like to see up at Newcastle? Because I think it's a weird move from him if he went there. Because with the business you guys are likely to do, he could find himself moving there and then being 5th or 6th in the pecking order when bigger, shinier names come in. Is he the type of player you'd like to see? Or Dan Bourne, even as Kev said, not the fanciest of names, but would you mind seeing a player like that? Because I think he's doing it. We'll move on to Newcastle now. I think there's a lot of positions that need filling there, for quality. You've got Trippier in the door. You got Chris Wood in the door. I'd nearly say every other position needs to be filled as well.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Is Phillips a player that would interest you?
Yes, the tweet that I tweeted the other day wasn't tongue in cheek. I think that I'm actually significantly surprised that we haven't already been interested in him on an official level.
Yeah.
I think obviously the Botman deal didn't happen basically because Lille are just a nightmare to deal with. Same with Sevilla and Diego Carlos. Strangely, who is represented by the same agent as Guimaraes is now, who I'm assuming is, I don't know, has maybe tipped us off about that. But very surprised about Nat Phillips. I would be surprised. I'm surprised even more if we go in for Dan Burn and not Nat Phillips, because that to me doesn't. I don't really understand that. But I do get what you said. It's a good point that maybe it's not a long-term thing. The thing is about Nat Phillips, though, it could be. Like, he might end up being like unbelievable. Like, you don't know that. Do you know what I mean? But it could end up being a long-term thing. But I do kind of get that. But then again, I don't think Dan Burn will be a long-term thing either. I think it's just a cover position, and maybe in the summer we're going to recoup for Botman, which I'm assuming is going to happen because he said that he wanted to leave and he wanted to come, and personal terms were agreed, and Lille just were not budging on what they wanted. They were upping the price 3 million, 5 million at a time. So, yeah, I'm surprised we haven't gone in for Nat Phillips now. I wouldn't mind Nat Phillips at all. I think that game he played at the San Siro was unbelievable. So the player is there, and I think just any sort of addition to our backline now would be good. But as someone says there, if we got Dan Burn and Nat Phillips, then that would be less than what we would pay for Diego Carlos, for example, probably. So we could even do that. I don't know what we're going to do because, in my opinion, centre-back was the position we needed to fill. Striker became a little bit more burning because obviously Callum Wilson was injured for 8 weeks, but the centre-back, we needed 2 centre-backs and we've signed none up to now. So that is a concern for me. So if these players are available, I don't see why we're not going in for them. But yeah, I would have Nat Phillips all day long.
Yeah, as Kev said, I can't see Liverpool standing in his way, so I'd say he is easily attainable. And I know what Newcastle are going to run into now is the oil tax is going to be lashed onto everything. But I don't think Liverpool are going to start being ridiculous about Nat Phillips, because I think that the way Jurgen Klopp manages his team and his players, he won't stand in their way and he won't hold players back. If they're good to him, he'll be good to them. So it is a strange one that they haven't gone to do that one yet. They've also lost out on Robin Goosens. Atalanta left back is going to Inter Milan, which would have been, in my opinion, would have been an absolutely brilliant signing at Newcastle. Mitchell Bakker, I think, is the next option at left back. Where, like, I asked Matt earlier, the one sign in one position, what's the one for you that you think needs to be done and should be done in this window to be enough to keep you up? Because I know it's sort of cutthroat down that bottom half and anyone can slip in and a couple of wins can drag you out. Until you're comfortable, you're not comfortable. Do you know what I mean? So what one position do you think they need to do to get themselves comfortable?
Centre-back immediately. We are so bad defensively. When I watched the Leeds game today, obviously I was there and I thought, you know what, actually they had a decent game, centre-back had a decent game. And it wasn't too bad at the time, but that's a 1 in 20 game chance. Like, it's just, we are where we are for a reason. And it's because defensively we've been extremely poor and because we can't score goals. So for me, it would have immediately been a centre-back, hence why I'm so shocked that we haven't. I know we've been working on those 2 deals. We worked on the Botman deal for 2 weeks. The Diego Carlos has been 3 weeks now, and it hasn't happened. So I think we'll probably get one in the next few days, and it will be a Dan Burn or a Nat Phillips. I don't think it'll be the long-term target that they want. Aside from a centre-back, it would have been a central midfielder, which now looks like it is probably going to be done.
Lovely segue. You can tell that this isn't your first go around on a podcast.
I'm used to it, Anna. Yeah. So yeah, we are. That looks like it's going to be done now, and that signing for me is our marquee signing of this window. Yeah. If we pull that signing off, I'll be gobsmacked. Honestly, I'll be absolutely gobsmacked if that signing comes off because of the interest that he has from other clubs. His ability. It's just, I mean, I think he's completed the most final third passes in League One at the moment. So League On, if you want to be French. So yeah, I was shocked with even the interest. Obviously, Leon have come out today and said that that's not happening. It's not done, whatever. There has been so many times they've done this before. Ferland Mendy, Nabil Fekir, going back to Lacazette. They've done this several times, and it's simply because, as far as we found out today, that their stocks are floated on the stock exchange, so they can't put any misinformation out or things that will make their stocks plummet. But every other source on planet Earth has said that that deal is happening. We have bid 33.5 million. He's got a medical on Friday because he's in Brazil at the moment. And that looks like it could be done, providing nothing else happens in that time. But again, even despite the new owners, I'm very pessimistic. I don't know if it's going to happen. But yeah, if that deal comes off, I'll be literally gobsmacked. Honestly, I'm very shocked. And obviously the Baka rumours have come out today, and apparently his representatives have flown to the UK today to sign that deal off. So whether that happens or not, I don't know, but my head will fall off. Like literally my head will actually fall off. If them two deals come through, my head will be gone, like literally gone.
Kendall, I think you need to prepare yourself, because I think Newcastle are going to do about 5 deals before this window closes.
Everyone's saying like deadline day is going to be mental. And
genuinely, I think it's going to be one of them. I think they're going to start announcing deals nearly daily, because I think they need to get players in. I think the Chris Wood signing was a smart one in the sense that he took him away from Burnley. You know what I mean? So you literally weak. And not that he's getting 20 goals a season or anything, but he's Burnley's goal threat. So, you know, while he will be improved upon as the years go on, it was a good one for the here and now to get him in the door. I think Bruno Guimaraes is an excellent signing. I think he is brilliant. I agree. The age profile of him, he's a Brazilian international. He's a progressive player. People seem to think he's this deep line playmaker type of player. He's not. He gets around. He's a brilliant player. I think he goes in and he instantly makes you a better team in that midfield area. But I think, you get him done. And then I think you will get at least 2 defenders, whether the 2 centre-backs or a left-back and a centre-back. I think you'll do that. And I think you'll get another midfielder. I think there's going to be loads coming in the door there. It takes you back to when Man City first got taken over, and, you know, they do Robinho, don't they, on deadline day. And, you know, I think there could be a bit of a scamper to get players through the door. Like Matt was saying about Spurs, they're talking to players behind the scenes. You don't know what's going on. They're lining up deals. Newcastle have found it difficult to get Botman, to get Diego Carlos, who I think is going to be an absolute godsend if you don't get him, because he is very, very rash. He is a walking red card waiting to happen, and I think he'd be out the gate in no time. The smart ones are the Nat Phillips and the Dan Burns. Botman would be a great player, but you must be excited for how it's going at Newcastle and what the future is looking like. Because fans, let's be clear, fans don't really give a shit what happens in Saudi Arabia. They don't care about, you know, their treatment of women over there. And look, we can be flippant about it, but ultimately, Man City fans are the same. You want success for your team. If you get instant success, you get instant success. And you're going to have to get used to then justifying that, you know, like the Man City fans have. But it must be exciting to be a Newcastle fan at the moment.
Yeah, it's a strange position to be in, because like it's almost like, as I've said there, everyone's like super optimistic, like who aren't a Newcastle fan. They're like, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I'm sat there like, I don't think we will. But that's because I've got like PTSD of the last like 15 years thinking that nothing's going to happen.
30 years ago.
Honestly, like we were absolutely begging for Joe Willock, and the like that was it. And we waited till the last day and Joe Willock was done, and we were like, great, Joe Willock's done, and that was it. And now it's like every single day there is 3+ players being linked to us. Every player that is like even linked with the move, it's on Newcastle. They're interested, and that to me is like, I can't get my head around that as of the moment. A lot of Newcastle fans are becoming a little bit impatient with the window, which I get, because obviously the thing is, people were like, oh, you've got money, so immediately people just think, right, you're going to do deals. But just because we have the money doesn't mean that we should spend the money just simply because we have it. You brought up a point earlier about the fact that the clubs are going to see us coming and they're going to up the price. They're going to inflate the price because we can pay the money up front. I get that. But the likes of this Lingard deal, I absolutely don't agree with it all. And I don't think we should be paying 15 million as a package for a 4-month deal. People say it's 6 months, but it isn't. It's 4 months. And that is we've got 17 games left. That is nearly £1 million per game. For me, people are going to say, well, yeah, but he's worth that if he keeps you up. Right, well, what if he doesn't?
Yeah.
Just like it's just a 50-50. There's no reason why we should be doing that simply because Man United want us to. And yeah, as Kevin says, like they were just absolutely taking the mick basically because they can. He doesn't want a permanent deal, which I understand. We don't want a permanent deal, which I understand. Man United will not budge and they want a permanent deal or we pay £15 million. He's free in 6 days' time. He is a free transfer in 6 days' time. There's no reason for us to be going paying 15 million for him now. Like when he's not even our player. And then if we stayed up, they want on top of that, they wanted 10% of whatever that was. So it's like another 10 million.
Yeah.
Like it's just silly. And I'm glad that we're walking away from deals and saying no if they're becoming silly because it's a principle thing, and you don't get rich by splashing your money. Basically, you get rich because you are greedy and you're savvy about your money, and that is how I want us to go forward. Although then you've got to look at the other part and think, well, what is the price of staying up this season? And it's basically priceless at this point. We are desperate to stay up, so it's just a matter of time. I think I do agree with you in terms of I think this week will be interesting. I think there'll be movement, and I think we will do one deal and pay over the odds for one deal. Whether I don't know what that'll be at this point, but I think we will pay over the odds for one deal and whatever else happens. But as of yet, we have no outgoings either. So then
I was going to ask you that, Kendall. Actually,
Yeah.
do you have to make way in your squad for these players to come in?
Yes, we will. We will eventually, because obviously, at the moment, Callum Wilson's obviously out, so Chris Wood's just kind of replaced him for the moment. Sean Longstaff was supposed to be going to Everton. Rafa's left. That's not happening now. But that's going to be our issue. There is absolutely nobody in our squad that anyone in the Premier League will take at this moment that we want to get rid of. So, like, obviously, yes, St. Maximin, fine, but we don't want to get rid of St. Maximin, so he's not going to go anywhere. No one's going to take Dwight Gale in the Premier League. It'll have to be a championship if that's the case.
And that's if the player wants to do
it. And if he wants to go. No one's going to take Matty Longstaff. No one's going to take Sean Longstaff. No one's going to take Jeff Hendrick. No one's going to, like, there's just, that squad is horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. We haven't upgraded the squad necessarily on a significant level. As I was saying about Spurs, we haven't done it since we were in the Championship 5 years ago. There are players there. Our back line, obviously apart from Trippier now, is what we had in the Championship 5 years ago. Our midfield, apart from Joe Willock, is what we had in the Championship 5 years ago. So it's like we haven't upgraded the squad at all. I can't see us moving anyone out unless we mutually terminate some contracts, which I can maybe see happening because we kind of have the money to do that now as well. Jeff Hendrick might be going to Middlesbrough. Okay, we'll just let him go. I don't even see why we're hesitating on a deal. Just let him go for whatever it is and just free that space up. There's just no need for us to be holding on to these players now. But I don't see anyone. I genuinely don't see anyone leaving as of this moment because no one wants them. That's just the bottom line. But
yeah.
I mean, it's a legit problem, and with 5 days to go, it'll come from all sides. And Matt, you were saying earlier on about Tottenham having to get the players out, they organise the Brian Gill loan, the Ndombele move, because that is an expensive flop. It was a big fee, big wages. It didn't help the player, I don't think, that he came in with such hype, and it just hasn't worked out for him. And that happens with players, but when you've got a limited time frame to get these kind of moves out made so you can get your incomings, it's very difficult. That's why I don't understand it with clubs. Why they dilly-dally when you've got 30 days? Every club does this every year. They all leave it to the end, to the last week, in case you might save some money. You never do.
Yeah.
No club ever does. And if you're moving countries and you've got a young family and you going to move to Spain or you're going to move to France, you've got lots of other things to sort out as well as sorting out a move. You know what I mean? It's not easy and it's never straightforward. So I think these last 5 days are going to be absolutely nuts. I think there's going to be absolute mayhem. There's going to be a domino effect somewhere. And when the dominoes start to fall, they're going to start falling everywhere. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
I'm dreading it. I've honestly, I've had a knot in my stomach this whole month. I need it just to be over. I need it gone. But then the knot in my stomach won't go because I'll be waiting until the last day of the bloody season to see if we get relegated.
Finished in the summer.
I'm sick. I'm absolutely sick and tired. Honestly, I would love someone to just come to me now and say, right, you guys stay up by a goal. I wouldn't even care if it was a goal. I would not care one bit as long as they stayed up. And if someone said to me, right, you guys stay up, I could just sit back. I'd be like, right, great, crack on, do whatever you want. I don't honestly care anymore. I just wish I knew what was going to happen, but obviously that's football for you. You never know what's going to happen in football, do you really?
That's why we love it. Jamrock, 1975, Jamrock puts in a super chat. Thanks very much. Surprised Newcastle didn't reach out to pry Origi. Now, I know Liverpool are sort of maybe reluctant to lose any attacking players, but I think Origi is one that if a bid had to come in, we may have let happen. Is he a player that you would have liked to see up at Newcastle, Kendall? Because Eddie Howe has been a good benefactor to Liverpool in his Bournemouth days, and he always looked after us with inflated transfer fees. And I thought Origi would have been a sensible choice because we spoke about, tongue in cheek saying that, but we spoke about him on our show loads of times. He needs a move to a team where he can be a main man. And I think he'll get 15 to 20 goals in a season if he's playing regular football. He just can't do it at Liverpool. Is that type of forward someone you could see, or you would have liked to see in the short term? Do you know what I mean? Until you can start bringing in the more elite players, would a player of the Origi caliber being someone you'd like to see? Are you happy with Chris Wood? Is Chris Wood one that you can say, right, we can get behind him?
I wanted Origi as soon as we obviously knew Callum Wilson was going to be injured. Origi was my immediate thought because, again, I know people can say, well, you have money, you can aim higher, but that's not where we're at the moment. I'm not naive to the fact that we are 18th in the league, where we're not going to have the pull other than money that other clubs would have. So I wanted Origi initially. Obviously, then it was said that he wasn't going to be allowed to leave because of AFCON. Obviously, Mane and Salah were both out at AFCON, which I understood at the time. And I got that, and I thought, well, maybe when the summer comes around, but we don't know where we're going to be at that point. So, yeah, I would have loved Origi, and I would have taken Origi. The Chris Wood signing, when it happened, I was convinced myself that I was happy about it. I wasn't initially like, great, woo, like Chris Wood. That wasn't me. I was like, come on, like I was trying to convince myself. I was bringing up the positive. I was like, right, this is good. As time's gone on, I understand the signing. It was an easy coup because it was a release clause. We paid the release clause. It happened in 24 hours. I got that. It immediately weakened our relegation rival in Burnley, who are a club that cannot simply go out and spend money. Their record signing is 13.5 million in Maxwell Cornet. They're not going to go and spend 20 million, 25 million on a striker immediately because that's not how they do business. They're in Sevilla debt. Their new owners have put them in more debt than they were in prior. So they're not going to do that, which helps. They're now looking at like Andy Carroll, for example. So for me, that was like a great thing to do. Against Leeds the other day, he aerially won the most on the pitch out of every single player on the pitch. That is something that we've struggled with for several years now because we don't have an aerial threat up front. Andy Carroll was the only one that we had, and he was on a pay-to-play contract and played like 30 minutes out the whole season. So we don't have that. So he does add something that we don't already have. I do think that him and Wilson will probably play well up front together when Wilson comes back. I don't think it'll be a one or the other situation. At the time, I think we'll probably play both of them. If not, it'll be a case of which game suits which better. But I do think it's going to end up being a shrewd signing, and I think at the time it will have been the right one. But yeah, it's just I would probably now like another one, like another striker. That's just me being a joke now. That's me being greedy. But yeah, I think the Chris Wood signing in the end, 25 million might be a lot to some, but it was a desperation move from us. And it was a simple move that could have been done, and that's what happened. So, yeah, it is what it is at this point. If he offers us something that we didn't already have, then that's a positive for me.
Exactly. It's, come the summer, if you're still in the Premier League and Chris Wood is your third choice striker next season, you won't be too upset about it. And exactly. If you had to move him on, there'll be plenty of takers. Matt, what do you make of the Newcastle situation? Look, Liverpool are in a position now where we're ahead above the other teams in the league, along with Man City. Are you worried about Newcastle getting in there? The makeup of the top four has been sort of broke up over the last couple of years. Teams are dropping out, other teams are coming in. Are you worried that Newcastle can make a play here and can really put the likes of Spurs under pressure?
I'm more worried about it now than I was when the takeover happened, because when they came in, it felt like it was the type of thing where they go out and they just make big signings for the sake of making big signings. And the perfect player I could use that as an example really was Ousmane Dembele. There was an extremely talented player, would cost a lot of money, but is very injury prone, and it just seems like they're signing that big name rather than what actually he could do on the pitch. But they seem to have gone about their business in a very different way. And even within those deals that haven't happened, there's a lot of intelligent players I've identified, like Ben Botman. I think Diego Carlos maybe would kind of ruffle the feathers a little bit and could have been a good signing. I know there's obviously the concerns with how rash he is and stuff like that, but the Bruno Guimaraes, Jesse Lingard haven't done so well at West Ham last season. These are clever signings, and they're, even with Chris Wood, with Dan Burn, Nat Phillips, they're players with Premier League experience. And I think they're going about that in a much better way than what I thought they would have done. But my concern for them is, if you want to compare them to Manchester City, when that all happened back in 2008, when that money started coming in, the difference now is the ceiling in the Premier League is a lot higher than it was back then. And it still took City quite a bit of time. They went through their period of bad managers. They went through their period of bad signings when that happened. I think Newcastle maybe will avoid that to some extent, but they've such a higher ceiling to catch. I don't think they will win a Premier League title. I don't think they may challenge for the top four. They're not going to reach that very high ceiling. But then you come into the question of, this is a PIF, the group that have bought Newcastle. If things start to go well for them, they're going to want to expand. They're going to want to get other football clubs. I think there was talk of Inter Milan, because I know the Zangs are struggling financially. They lost Jiangsu Suning last year after winning the league in China. You then run the risk of PIF getting an Inter Milan or getting another team like that, and their focus shifts. And all of a sudden, the big signings they want to make are with that other team, and Newcastle may fall to the wayside a little bit. I hope that doesn't happen, because Newcastle are a massive club, and I think they do have the foundations there, the structure to go on and become a European team. But there's just so many moving parts, and there's so many variables that just make it seem a lot more unlikely than it would have been 10, 15 years ago. And that is my concern for them. But even if they go down this season, they'll make good signings in the Championship. They'll come back up. I think as a Premier League club, they will get that stability and maybe be a Europa League side even. But in terms of consistently challenging right up there, I just don't see it happening for them, unfortunately.
Kev, something Matt touched on there is he doesn't see Newcastle challenging for a Premier League title. And, it's a fair thing to say. There's not many teams challenge, but Leicester got in there and sort of, threw the cat among the pigeons and won a Premier League title. And I'll say this till the day I die, they got in at the best possible time, because, other teams were in sort of transition at that stage. It was Spurs actually and Arsenal were the chasers really that year in that title race. So Klopp had only come to Liverpool. I think Guardiola was even in a City. Yeah. United had lost whatever manager they had lost at that stage. There could be a possibility in 2-3 years time that Pep Guardiola isn't at Man City, Jurgen Klopp isn't at Liverpool, and then the managerial appointments that happen can really knock a team down. If Newcastle are savvy about it and they can progress year on year, transfer window, it's maybe not as unrealistic to think that they could challenge for a league, but it would have to be maybe on a down year for some of the other so-called big teams. Do you think it's possible, or are you with Matt on this one?
Nope. I think they're going to be challenging for the top four within 2 years. The first thing I would do in the summer is I'd bin Eddie Howe. I don't rate him as a man. I think he's a standing joke. I think he spent too much time at Bournemouth, and his reputation at the start at Bournemouth was great, young English manager. And for me, he gradually went down and down and down. I don't rate him. I think he's a short-term fix until they get safe. And then you're going to see Newcastle go out and get an elite manager. Then you're going to see them bringing in elite players, and you will see them fly out the table. What Matt said about Inter Milan is absolutely possible. I don't believe the PIF are going to stop at Newcastle. I think they're going to diversify across the football world, and you'll see them try to do the similar thing in Spain. They'll try to do a similar thing in Italy. And if they could do it, they'd probably try it in France and Germany as well. And within 15 years, PIF will have established a foothold in world sport through football. I don't agree with the ownership of Newcastle. I can't stand what they've done. I can't stand their record on human rights. I think they're an absolute abomination. And I've held that line, and I've said that from day one, that if Liverpool were to come under an ownership like that, I would never, ever appear on a pod. I wouldn't tweet about it. I wouldn't talk about it. I would walk away. I would go back to watching GA, because there's certain things that I'm not prepared to countenance. But that's just me. Now, what I think Newcastle will do, I honestly think they've got a big plan. I honestly believe that they are going to throw the kitchen sink at being a success. This country knows absolutely nothing other than being successful. You watch them when they go for it, when they do it with F1, when they've done it with UFC, when they've brought major sporting events to Saudi. They go balls out. They don't mess about. They want it to be the biggest and the best and the brightest in the world, and they will stop at nothing to do that. I honestly think that that's what they're going to do at Newcastle. I think they're going to be such a force, and I don't think the league is prepared for it. I know people will say it took Man City this long and that long. Do you not think that these people will have watched and seen the mistakes that they made, and they will go out of their way to make sure they don't make those same mistakes? Do you not think they haven't sat down and studied what Klopp has done, what Guardiola has done, and bringing in the right characters into a club, and bringing in the people who want to be there for the right reasons, and they'll pay their money to get those right people? They will. They will absolutely do that. And if they haven't studied what these successful managers have done in the last 5 to 10 years, and they absolutely fail, then it's on them, because there is absolutely no excuse for them not to fail. There's absolutely no excuse for them, for what has happened in the past, not to learn from it, because they have the funds. And the thing is, with financial fair play, they have a short window. Mike Ashley, the best thing that Mike Ashley did for Newcastle was not spend. Because Mike Ashley, in a weird, twisted way, has given these new Newcastle owners free rein for a short period of time. You see what Mashiri did at Everton and how much he ploughed into the club badly, and they're suffering for it now. If Newcastle spend anywhere near what they're capable of spending and do it right, sky's the limit.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Kendall, I'll give you the last word on Newcastle before we wrap up. You're excited about it. Something that Matt touched on there was, if they bought an Inter Milan, maybe the focus won't be on Newcastle, but surely the money and the riches in the Premier League would ensure that the focus was staying on Newcastle. Are you worried about maybe the ownership taking their eye off the ball, or are you happy enough and confident enough that, as Newcastle, something Kev said there was about Man City. Man City had to compete with another team in Manchester they had to climb over Manchester United before they could take over. Are Newcastle in a nice little position there? Do you think the Northeast, they sort of have a big following, a fanatical following up there already, that they could, put all their eggs into the Newcastle basket and really put the focus there?
I think even if there is branching out, I think the worth that they have is significant. The owners, not the club, obviously, but the owners are in the league now worth 80-odd% of the league's worth in terms of owners. So even if they do branch out, there's obviously the Premier League is always going to be the star in the crown, but that's just the way it is at the moment. Whether or not it'll change in however long, I don't know, but that's always going to be the case. So Man City's owners, they have other clubs. PSG's owners probably have other clubs. I mean, even Watford's owners, for example, have Udinese as well. So it wouldn't be surprised me if they did. It wouldn't necessarily bother me at the time, just depending on what happened. I don't think that we will be anywhere near challenging for a league title for about 10 years. Simply because it's me being cautious, but also the club I don't think people realise how much disarray the club's actually in at this moment in time. We don't have an academy structure. We sold all of our grassroots contracts to Liverpool and Chelsea. We don't have a sporting structure behind the scenes, so we don't have a sporting director. We haven't had one since Dennis Wise came in as a director of football like 10 years ago.
Days.
And that lasted a few months. So we haven't had anything like that. We've only just recently brought in a first team performance analysis from yourselves. So we don't have a structure, which is going to take a few years because obviously FFP financially will come in. This wasn't around as stipulated as it is now when Man City were taken over. So there is a lot more to deal with in that respect, I believe. But I think the owners have said 5 to 10 years. That's they want to be challenging for a title in 5 to 10 years. If we can even get to an FA Cup final in 5 years, I will be over the moon. That genuinely, I'll be over the moon because it's just progression, which is something we haven't had for the last 15 years. There was never any progression. There was never any intent to progress. It was stay stable. We might get relegated a couple of years, but it was just stay stable. So progression for me, if we're within 5 years, if we're significant, like solidly a top 10 club, I'll be happy. And that I don't want our fans to get too carried away and think, oh, we're going to win a Premier League title in 5 years, because it's probably highly unlikely. We will improve, but the likes of Man City will also improve. Chelsea will also improve. Liverpool will also improve. So it's not just going to be us overtaking everybody. So yeah, I think we've got to be a little bit more realistic. But as I've said, I'm not naive. I'm quite happy if we're consistently a top 10 club for the next 5 years. I've just seen a random thing popped up that we're now in for Zapata. We've put a bid in for Zapata in the last today, so that's another link to the chain. Apparently tripling his contract, so that's amazing. But I think it's just more to come. We'll see what happens. Obviously, literally now there's no point in getting excited because we actually don't know what's going to happen. So come the summer, I think I might be a little bit more optimistic come the summer, because that will change. If we stay up, that will change everything, because we can attract the players with the money. We're not in a position where we're 18th in the league and people are worried about getting relegated. So from that point onwards, I think we can be excited. Everything we've done for now is in the short term. Eddie Howe's contract is 2.5 years. Short term. Chris Wood's contract is 2.5 years. Kieran Trippier's contract is 2.5 years. So everything at the moment we are doing in the relatively short term in terms of football. So I think there's been some smart decisions made. We'll see what the next 6 days hold. And then we'll see where we go from there, really. Exactly.
I think where any club, even Liverpool included, people go mad when we don't sign players. We never sign anyone. But January is never a month that we do business, unless we have to do one or two, you might be out of desperation. But the summer is when you do your big moves. And I think that's when you'll see what Newcastle can do, because we've said it. I think they need a goalkeeper, they need centre backs, they need a left back, they need midfielders, they need forwards. The only one that they have, I think, that they with the Trippier side is Saint-Maximin. I think everyone else is probably dispensable, and see what he can do in the summer window will be very telling on what he do. Bruno Guimaraes is an excellent signing. 30 million or whatever the fee will be is the type of player that you want to do. You don't want to be spending 80 million on someone. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to fall into that trap. 30 million, improve all your players that way. But look, it'll be interesting to see what happens. You might come back on in a few weeks and get Matt back on as well, and we'll see where all the clubs stand when the window's closed, and we'll see if we're all happy or not. But before we finish up, lads, I just want to say a quick shout out. We have a charity partner that we're working with. We can't see it. It's in the top corner of the screen there. It's called Féileacáin. And what Féileacáin are, it's a service that helps people cope with bereavement of during pregnancy or just after pregnancy. It's an excellent charity that does great work. It's a not-for-profit organisation, so every contribution and donation they get is usually helpful to them. We've said it, we're going to talk about it on every show we do. We'll make no apologies about it. We are doing a charity golf day in June of this year, where we're looking to raise about 10 grand for the charity, and we will be doing sponsorships and prizes and all that sort of stuff. But there's also a link for iDonate. It's in the show description. It's on our website. If everyone listening, if you just share the stuff, donate if you can, but we're going to keep pushing this because we think it's a great charity to support, and it's something that, you know, while it may not have affected you personally, it will certainly have affected somebody that you know or someone that's close to you. So it's definitely something that we want to do. So I just had to give that a shout out before we finish up, because we're going to do it on every show, so we might as well do it now. So look, we'll wrap up there. I won't keep you any longer. We could talk about Newcastle and Spurs all night. I think it's great crack, but you know, we won't. We'll leave it at that. Matt, thank you very much for coming on tonight. It was a pleasure having you.
Thanks a million, Keith. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure coming on here. I look forward to the show in 3 weeks' time when I'm telling you how Luis Diaz got on in his debut for Spurs.
You can do that. Yeah. Feel free. I look forward to that one. I'll make sure I'm not washing my hair that night. I'll make sure I'm available for that one. Kendall, thank you very much for coming on and joining us. It was a pleasure having you. Hopefully we'll see you again on this channel very soon as well.
Yeah, hopefully when, as Matt says, and we're, you know, Gamarash has made his little debut. We've got Zapata up front. We've got Diego Carlos in defense.
Could be a totally different conversation.
But we might be talking about how Nat Phillips was. We don't know where we're going to be, but no, thank you for having me. It is genuinely always a pleasure, so thank you.
No, it's been a pleasure. Kev, you're always on these days. You're on more than me, so I should be thanking you for letting me on. But no, always a pleasure to be on with you, buddy.
Thanks, mate. Just for anyone who's in the stream at the minute, Féileacáin, great charity. Check out the social media pages as well. Share it amongst your friends. Share it in your WhatsApp groups and pass it around on Facebook and Insta and all the usual good stuff. And it's a very, very worthwhile. I guarantee you know someone who would have benefited from having someone on the end of a phone. So just having people know about it helps, you know. So just share it around your socials would be really appreciative.
Brilliant, good stuff. So we'll leave it there. This has been the transfer agenda with the LFC Daytrippers, and we'll talk to you all again soon.